All right, beautiful people. So just quick review of what to study. Now, you know that I'm going to test you on the geography. So over the weekend, you can click on this map, use your own maps, but make sure that you study physical and human geography of Africa. Play the Quizlets available for you. Use Sporkle if you need to, but study the physical and human geography of Africa. You also need to study the physical features of the Nile River, basic impacts, and the largest impact of the Nile River, which influenced the construction of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. To practice with the physical features and location of them, click on blank Nile River document, look at that, and then just practice labeling the physical features on the Nile and practice inserting this information to identify regional and global impacts. To read up on the major impact with the Nile River at the center in regards to the construction of the Aswan High Dam, simply click on the article and further your understanding that way. Now, the last part of your assessment will be on the diversity in Nigeria. Click on the study guide and look at the specifics in regards to each region. And then last, please understand the two major conflicts, right? Two major conflicts. One of them is religion, and then the other one is a ethnic conflict. So follow this timeline to like further your understanding, and then reread the actual sections in your book, okay, to actually understand the conflict in Nigeria that took place, okay? So here's the conflict, here's the civil war. You can read it here, but for the sake of this video, I'm just going to explain it to you. You can look at this video over and over again as much as you want. All right, here's what you need to understand. One, Nigeria starts off relatively small in size, very populated, very diverse. Early 1900s, it is colonized by the UK, arbitrarily divided up into three regions to create a new Nigeria, right? North, east, and west. Now, here are the characteristics of the west. Here are the characteristics of the north. Here are the characteristics of the east. When they split them up, we know that, and this is a major concept that is important, we know that the UK pretty much favored the East because they had a natural resource that could be used and taken advantage of. While they favored the East, 60 years of relationships were built, 60 years of being educated, 60 years of learning English, practicing Christianity, right, becoming lawyers, doctors, earning high government positions, business positions in the East. All of that was taking place. Meanwhile, in the North, the Muslims were, herders, farmers, traders, etc. In the West, they farmed, worked in factories in the city, markets, um, and they developed Christianity. They also practiced Islam and had their own traditional beliefs. Because of these advantages that were developed in the East, you're looking at the North and the West during the 60 years of colonial rule. What happens? The resentment towards the East grew. Let's put a target on them. After, right, 1960, when Nigeria, after colonial rule, and they have their independence in 63, what you have is you have the Igbo who migrated to other regions. You have the Igbo who were already in the North and the West. What happened to them while they were in the North? While they were in the West, they were attacked and thousands of them were killed. Eventually, at least 1 million Igbo fled back to the East, right, in terror, and remained deeply suspicious of their neighbors in the North and West. And then that relationship, these killings, right, ultimately led the Igbo to try to break away from Nigeria and form their own country called Biafra, right? This forced the Nigerian government to send troops to the east to stop the breakaway. This led to thousands of Nigerians dying in a civil war. This is the ethnic conflict, right? That goes way back to them being split up here 60 years of the relationships being built, advantages being gained. This ultimately leads to this civil war, okay, that lasted 3 years, and that is the ethnic conflict. In 1970, Nigeria became unified, um, but today, many of the memories of this civil war and tragic events between the North, East, and West still remain in the minds of many. So there's still hostile relationships that do take place and that are taking place. Now, in regards to the religious conflict, you have to understand Nigeria, the 12 states in the north are under Islamic rule. They're mostly Muslims up there, and they're mostly under Islamic rule and Islamic laws. However, the East and the West, they contain a mixture, and even in the North, there's a mixture of Christians as well. So what you have today, you have a legal system that consists of English common law, which is mostly influenced and rooted in Christianity. You have Islamic law and traditional law. The mixture in belief systems and law ultimately contribute to religious conflicts taking place in Nigeria today between Muslims and Christians. That's the big religious conflict, okay? And you can see it being played out as groups that you know about, right? Boko Haram, you can see why they kidnap little girls or why they're attacking certain groups. And it is mainly for the sole purpose of enforcing, spreading Islamic law in more places, right? And avoiding what? Avoiding English common law rooted in Christianity. So that is ultimately the clash that you see trying to avoid Western education, which ultimately stems way back to these relations, right, that started in 1900s and ended in the 1960s. But the impacts of 60 years of being colonized are still being seen today, right, and still felt today. So that's the those are the Nigerian conflicts. In regards to the conflict with the Nile River at the center, you have to understand that it's between the two countries of Egypt and Ethiopia, with Sudan in the middle, and that conflict is over the construction. The conflict is over the construction of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. To read more on these topics, simply click on the articles here, or if you want to read more on like the religious conflict in Nigeria, you can click here. Okay, so that's in a nutshell what you need to study and be prepared for. Read your book, look at your notes, use the resources available for you, and I will see you beautiful people next week.